Good evening. Good evening. So I have some fun stuff to show tonight. We're going to talk about a lot of interesting things, but it's kind of tied around one subject, and you're going to see how that comes together in a sec. I had a stressful night last night, and I looked back at it and thought, I really need to start finding my calm and recognizing that there's things that I can control, there's things I can't, and I just have to kind of let go of this tech stuff that has been sort of poking at me, and so be it. And so, I spent a good portion of the day today when I had my moments putting something together that I'm going to be showing here in a minute to focus on peace, stillness. Hi. Good evening. I have my temple of calm that I have used in the past, right? That I put together a little while ago. And I have that image as my background. And so I see it often, and it's very useful. But I thought, you know what? I think I want something a little more tactile. Something that I can continue to use and hold in whatever the case. So I decided to make something. And I was inspired by a couple of factors, really. I've been kind of re-examining the I Ching with respect to the story and with respect to the one truth, specifically in tying it to different symbol systems, knowledge systems. And the conclusion that I came to was that it's perfect for that. And so I thought, you know what, let me tie it to what I've been doing with the beads, with the tarot, with astrology and the deacons, and just add it to that mix. And so the I Ching mixed with the deacon system is actually quite beautiful. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about tonight. How do the court cards tie to the elements of the Bagua? And when you look at those connections and understand that those deacons connect to a series of small cards related to that energy, it's really a beautiful dance. And so we're going to look at that tonight directly because, what I decided to do is to create, now the shape is divinely inspired. I just want to be clear about that. It's not your typical Bagua, right? It's not in a typical perfectly symmetrical octagonal shape. This is, what I mean by divinely inspired is that there's a reason that I decided to create it with this space in the top and then have them laid out in this fashion as far as the 8, with the 2 in the center making 10. So it implies, in a sense, almost a tree of life kind of vibe, right? Where we have this idea of the 10 that are complete. And it begs the question of, which one's what, right? And so I thought it might be interesting to go through that process of kind of determining which ones are, from the respect of the court cards, the elements. Now I have a chart that I put together for my own use that's going to come in handy with respect to that, and that contains that information there on the bottom there. See that? The court cards and the I Ching. Okay, so we're gonna be referencing that with respect to which elemental combinations reference which element here, right? And now when you have that knowledge, it's a really good way when reading the beads, as an example, to tie it to a language system that you may be familiar with, if, say, I Ching is comfortable for you. And so what this does is allows us to do a couple of very interesting things. It's more than just a meditative tool. It's actually very effective for a number of reasons. So, for instance, each one of these outer trigrams represents one of the 8 elements, right? And again, I'll reference this here, and I'll bring it up on the screen as well for you. All right, and this here is the chart that determines the hexagram when referencing the I Ching for divinatory purposes. And it's highly, highly effective for that. I've used it here on the channel, and it's really something that you can't deny, the power of the I Ching as a divinatory tool. But if you look at the elements here as well, they're listed up and down and left and right as columns and rows, designed to help build the hexagram. But you'll see the names of these elements here, right? So we have heaven, thunder, water, mountain, earth, wind, fire, and lake. And these are the main components that make up manifest reality, right? This is what it looks like in the lower world. Now, the higher world, as we know, is simply the Tao. It's the one thing. There's no other thing in the higher world, so let's not even go there. I know the elemental system talks about the 5 elements, including wood and metal, right? Fire, water, air, wood, metal. And I understand. And there's certainly the 3 element system. There's so many different versions of that idea. We're going to be speaking about the element system tonight as well. Not just with respect to the I Ching, but I Ching, Tarot. And as I'm doing readings, I'm going to bounce around. And I think it's going to be really fun to kind of see that process bounce around. If we consider these elements, and we consider that these elements are also referenced by the court cards of the tarot, it really kind of paints a picture as to what we're looking at here. It's this diagram, in all of its beauty, is a very different depiction than, say, like the Bagua that we see up here on the screen. Right? This is the divine order. Okay, I speak about that very often, the divine order, and that the order matters. And if the order isn't correct, then the device will not work. Right? And so if you look at this here, this is the divine order, and what we have here is the lower world version of that. If you'll notice that there's this idea of the shared opposites, right? There's this idea of these opposites kind of flowing in this interesting sort of bounce back and forth between these energies, right? And the way they fall is kind of in an interesting fashion if you consider the upper world version, right, where there's this sort of left and right symmetry, and then there's the lower world version, okay, which has this sort of opposite symmetry, right? And now that is quite deliberate, and interestingly, there's also this idea, due to the fact that they're not completely symmetrical and octagonal, there's this opening of nothingness in between this separation of these polarities, right? We have the positive and the negative, which we know is the duality, but the duality is not truth. The duality is a perspective. The truth is the one, right? And that one actually has no definition, right? You know, one of the ways that we try to describe it, and that's one of the reasons I left this open, is that we can take another one of these and switch them in and out. And I have a couple here as an example, right? We have the divine hexagram of heaven over earth, or we have, you know, the yin yang, which is obviously the truth depicted in this beautiful seed of each rotating into the other, although it still implies this sort of dualism in a sense. And then we have this here is interesting because, you know, if I lay it this way with the yang line on the bottom, it makes 63, but if I turn it around with the yin line, right, so it can actually change positions based on how it's fixed. Same thing here, right? So this can be either heaven over earth or earth over heaven, and there's a very different meaning. Okay, and now consider I have a lot of other nickels, and so what I'm going to wind up doing is creating the appropriate hexagrams that can be rotated to create the full 64 in a smaller set, right? So that you don't have to have all 64 nickels, these wooden nickels, in order to create the entire set. And so I'm going to be putting that together over the next day or so. When it's complete, it'll be a complete set. Now, it obviously begs the question, you know, what if I want to derive a hexagram? How would I go about doing that? Well, you know, I have a couple of things that you can use for that process. You have these here are one contains the yin yin, one contains the yang yang. Okay, and you can use these to randomly choose one, and that would be the line. Another method, which I think is more effective, is to randomly choose beads. And essentially you choose a random number of beads, and if it's an odd number, then it is a yang. And if it's an even number, then it's a yin. It's very simple. Okay, so even yin, odd yang. So you just pick a number of beads and you count them if it's odd or even, and then you derive the line that way. You do that 6 times and you have your hexagram. Now in here, let me see if I can get a good zoomed in view. Okay, is a series of beads in 2 colors, right? We have one less gold. We have some gold beads and we have some silver looking beads. Okay, now the implication is that we have the ability here to both just choose beads and then count to see if it's we have an odd or an even number, but we also have the ability to just pick one and see its quote polarity or gender, right? And so we could easily just pick a bead and see is it gold or silver. If it's silver, it's going to be feminine, which will be the yin, and if it's gold, it'll be masculine and it'll be a yang line, right? So let's see what we have here. Okay, it's a gold bead, so that's a yang line, right? And so there's several ways to use the beads to derive the lines. You can either pick a bead, look at the gender, or you can pinch a number of beads and count odd or even. I'm going to use the second method. I'm going to pinch a number of beads and count them to see odd or even, and that's the method I'm going to use when I go through this process later. And now I have this cute little thing I've set up here where it's basically just a dish, okay? And on the dish, there's 3 yellow beads and 8 red beads, along with these 2 stone beads that I drew the yang and the yin yin to represent the stage where they're beginning to actually manifest physically. There's actually some happening, as opposed to it just being its core element of the 2 in the center that are really just unmanifest. But have separated, have begun the process, but are still patently unmanifest. In this case, they're beginning to actually take form and attract each other. And in that attraction, all kinds of things happen. All these hexagrams occur, right? So the idea here is to just have a space that honors that mathematics, honors the idea of the fact of the 2 into the 3 into the 8, and it also has the idea of that Fibonacci, which is quite beautiful. And what that does is it implies, in the fact that we have the 2, 3, and 8, that there's a 5 in between, right? There's this 5 in the math that's present spiritually, and that's an important point. It's the reason I left the 5 out. I had them in, and I thought, you know what? No, I'm going to leave them out so that the spirit of 5 is present rather than the actual. And what the spirit is the spirit of the elements. So that those elements, that's the fire, water, air, earth, and metal, are present in their archetypal form so that they can manifest physically without definition. Rather than us defining them with a shape, we keep it kind of open. Okay, so it allows for there to be some actual manifestation magic. Manifestation magic is a subject a lot of people have been asking me about recently. And I thought, let me just cover it on the channel tonight. So this is one example of a way to go about that. All you have to do is to create some type of system whereby you can basically illustrate the idea of polarity, right? And so I just have my device here, right? And now one of the things that I can do with this device, let me move my Garden of Splendors. I have it inside of a globe right now. I'm going to be speaking about that later. I have some stuff that I've added to it. It's quite interesting. It's going to be fun to talk about. It was a fun process putting that together. I can take this here, and we have a couple of options. If we notice in the position that it's in right now, there's a certain polarity to it. There's this openness on the top, and that's inviting kind of anything that wants to come in, right? But now, that also lends the opportunity for me to choose one of the elements to be on the top. And whichever element I choose to be on the top implies the energy that's being vibrated inside here. So if you consider this is a replica, a reenactment of the actual processes that are going on right now on the particle level, on the string level, of this interplay of the plus and the minus, giving birth to these different elements of mountain and wind and thunder and so forth, and the happenings that come along with them interacting. And we consider that. Based on the interplay, we'll give birth to some of these elements based on our will, if we decide to put one at the top, or potentially then switch that to a different gender, or we could even, employ water and fire, depending upon what we're looking to do. And we can understand ultimately the language of bestowal and reception by employing, say, like a hexagram that's relevant to that, right? Whether we want to be in a state of reception or in a state of bestowal. And so we can, have some options here with respect to the configuration, by simply rotating it and having the appropriate hexagrams that are necessary for the working to be, in the right position, whether it's on top or, and so forth. Right. And some of the other options that we have here as well is to have these this in the dish when doing a bead reading. And so you'll see where the beads land with respect to these different elements, and you can make an interpretation, almost a positional meaning interpretation about where those elements play. Because if you have a specific court card, as an example, that lands in fire, you can have that conversation with respect to what that meaning means. And so there's a lot of options here as far as the configuration and as far as the usage, the mode, and it really is very, very powerful as a meditative tool. I have to kind of button it up a little bit. It's just glued on with Elmer's glue, and so it's not really solid. Brianna, how's it going? I just noticed you were here. Thank you for popping in. I miss you. So it's not really reliable. It's not sturdy, right? Although the pieces are here, and I can always glue them back on. In the meantime, once I have a definite design, then I'm going to commit to it by putting a more permanent solution on the back, screwed in type of thing, and so that these will not move at all. Another thing I had considered doing was putting neodymium magnets on the bottom, and then having these have the opposite polarity on the other side so that they can be clicked in and moved around. I think there may be something to the fact that you can move them around, but they'll click into a specific configuration. So you can change the elements in their interplay, but they'll always have this position. So that's an option I had considered as well. And I'm just kind of kicking around ideas, and we'll see kind of where that lands. I always sort of keep it open to divine inspiration. Sort of let the goddess in and see where it takes you, right? So we're going to use it tonight in a couple of fashions. I'm going to use these to pick some hexagrams. And also, we may consider some intent. And so now on the top here, we're going to leave it in its current state right here. But we'll use that empty space to use maybe one of these, or even draw a new one. I have some blank nickels for that reason. That was actually not as loud as I thought it was going to be. I guess the wings worked. It fell slowly. You see those wings? Yeah, they saved it from crashing too loud. Okay. Gotta find that center of gravity. There it is. Sorry about that. Alrighty. It's probably going to happen again. So, let me just put these back here. What I'll do in the meantime is I'm just going to set it to the yin-yang. I'm just going to put the yin-yang there and just keep the intention open to whatever happens to be. Alright? And then we'll consider what to do after the fact. Right? And so right now, this is what it looks like. Okay, with the yin yang at the top, and then what we'll wind up doing is we'll probably wind up rotating that at some point to sort of change the gender, or to maybe even again put it in a state of reception or bestowal, depending upon which way it's rotating and which state it's currently in. Remember that it's always in a state of changing. So wherever you are now is guaranteed where you're not going to be very soon, right? And so if you're wanting to bring something towards you, consider that when deciding if you're going to be in currently a state of reception or bestowal, in order to facilitate that desire being met. Okay, so I'm just going to put these here like this. Okay, great. And I also have a this is a cloth bead. It's a yarn bead wound around a wooden ball with a hole drilled. And this is just a representation from my perspective of the red and the black is the idea of that positive and negative. And it's just a perfectly round representation of the universe. With that drilled hole as the listening, speaking device, right? Organ. So I just have that kind of there and present during the work as a witness. Because, if you're going to do something magically, you might as well have somebody witness. I love dark coffee. So I got some good news. I have some things coming in the mail. And looks like they're going to be hopefully coming tomorrow. Always fun. Got kind of backed up a day or so, but that's okay. And it's really helped move things along on the channel here, which is good. Shoo, how's it going? I don't know how long you've been here. Did you see what I put together? We're going to have some fun here today with the I Ching. We're going to be doing some readings too, specifically by looking at the court cards and how the court cards tie into the trigrams. And we're going to be deriving the court cards of the tarot to look at the connection to the trigrams by using the beads. So it's the perfect storm of just mashing up three different systems to come to one truth. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to connect the dots between all the different members of the family that speak that same one truth. Tarot definitely speaks it. Definitely speaks it. Alchemy speaks it. I Ching is the most beautiful, elegant form. The only thing more elegant than I Ching is the Tao itself, with respect to speaking the one truth. And there's various other forms, right? We'll be connecting astrology, tarot, I Ching, and the bead system, the court cards of the tarot, all tonight in a very simple, elegant system while doing a reading. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, that was silly. Oh, that's awesome. You have the wing too. That's great. Feeling better. A bit hoarse. My throat is pretty sore. And I'm having some kidney pain. My kidneys hurt. I don't know. So whatever I'm dealing with is kind of hit me a little harder than I expected. But I'll heal. I've been feeding my cold today, so I had a diverse couple of meals. I don't know, it's kept my energy up, which is good. And I feel mentally pretty good, but my body's dragging. And I feel like I got kicked in the back. Which is unfortunate, but it'll pass. This too shall pass. So, let's see. Where do I want to begin? Let me grab my book. I'm not 100% sure where I want to start because, frankly, everything I want to talk about today is going to be really cool. One of the first places that I thought would be neat is to take a look at from the respective astrology. You know, I put this pentacle together here to be used with the bead system to when doing readings, you can have just see where the beads land, and it's very quick and easy to read. And then we have the system here as well, the deacon wheel that you can just put into the tray, throw down the beads, and then have that appear, right? And so it's a very quick, simple way. Visually, due to the colors, it's quick and easy to get the idea of what we're looking at here. It's a very effective tool for that, right? And so I thought, well, let's maybe take a look at an actual chart. And so rather than just throwing the beads down, what we'll do is we'll take a chart. Mine, I have my chart printed out, and we'll put the beads where it was at the moment of my birth on this wheel. And so it gives us an idea of looking at a chart from an actual physical perspective that we can look at and pick up the pieces and move around, right? And so it's one of those things that until you've been through the process, you may think, okay, well, this is sort of like an interesting, maybe playful way to explore the chart, but is there anything really to it? Turns out there really is, because once you have it physically in front of you, all of a sudden you can actually see the connections with the deacons a little better. You can get a sense of where is it going. You can get a much better idea of looking at the energies that are around it, and maybe even pull some other beads and put it next to it to look at it with respect to the tarot, right? So instead of just having a planet lined up on one of the signs, we'll take the actual a wand and a cup and put it next to it if it's the Knight of Cups, right? Or we'll grab a sword and a pentacle if we want it to be the Prince of Disc. And so by putting that next to the planet, it's kind of like adding this other layer of drama to the telling of the story, because that's what we're here to do, right? Why does the tarot work? We're not telling the future, we're recollecting, we're telling the past. We know how the story ends because we lived it and we wrote it, and then we just see the story unfold. And so this is kind of neat when you put the stones down and use them during the process. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. And so now I have the beads here as well, and they're ready to go. I have the whole system here with the small cards, the 22 letters, the binary system to do the math if need be. Now we once I pick it up, and then the male version and the female version, the large dish for the Garden of Splendors, and then the small dishes for the male and the female version. So it's all there in that little thing, and then this is going to be just placed in there. We'll grab the chart, put the planets down, and it'll be a lot of fun. I typically turn this to the area where we are right now at the bottom. So right now we're in Scorpio, and we're roughly at about there. Okay, so it's like a little calendar. Let's do that. Okay, great. So let me pick that thing up that I just dropped, and I'll be right back. I think that was everything, but let me grab a flashlight anyway, because, why not? Let's just make sure. I made a slight adjustment to my lantern oracle, which I'm going to show you here in just a moment. Let me just give this a quick look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Yeah, let me find it. There's one bead missing. Which actually I can replace because I do have an extra of the one that's missing. But yeah, let's just try to find out. I'll be back. Okay, I'm not finding it, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to just grab the extra. That's why you have extras. Always have extras. Okay, which I believe they're in here. So the one that I'm looking for, let me just let's open it up and take a look at what I need. Yeah, it turns out the desk is tilted just enough that the beads roll. So pardon me. Yep. All right. So I just need one of the round black and white post beads, and now I'm in business. Because you want there to be an even number of the larger beads for picking the binary digits. So I just need one more to get it even, and then we're all set. Okay, the one that I'm looking for. Alright, we're good. Never happened. That's it's actually also a very strong meditative process. Trying to get a specific bead out of this little ball without pouring out too many, right? You're always going to get more than the one you need, but that wasn't so bad. I've done worse. And, I'm doing research now to try to find the appropriate globe. I'm looking for glass globes with a screw on top that has a standard size for that top, so that I can have options with respect to the top that you choose. And that it can be switched out quickly and easily. Like in this particular case, what I did is I just took the normal top, flipped it upside down, and pulled all the things up so it almost has like a crown kind of look. And then I beaded the ring with one pink bead, and then gave it wings, and then stuck it, in opposite. Now this is just the top of a candle it shines angels on the ceiling, right? And the fact that it was in a hexagram I thought was really appropriate, and so I'm just going to use it. To crown the crown, right, of the Garden of Splendors. That's better. Okay. All right, and so that's. And when it's time to use it, which I do, I have, and it works. The Garden of Splendors is an actual, literal, working altar, temple. It's a temple and an altar that is a working magical altar and temple. Let's find that center. And it's effective. It manifests. It actually does work. And the divinatory work that comes from it, I put this underneath and do the work on top of this, and this is always underneath of the beads. And you know, there's something to that with respect to the intention that's set in here, which actually it's right here. The intention is being set right now, and this bead is going to be utilized at the appropriate time. It's going to be dropped in here to set that intention before those beads go in that bowl and we do the work. And so you're going to experience it all live here tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I guess let me actually switch them out then. I'm going to have this up here, and we'll get that going. I'm just going to put this over here, sort of out of the way. But it's very visible in my sight, right? It's just very prominent. I'm going to use a larger ring. Alrighty, so I'm going to begin by putting the garden together. Okay, and the first thing that I'm going to do is set the intention. Give me just a moment. So, this has been here for quite a couple of days. And that specific intention is very direct. It has one goal. So essentially, I think I want to set them up over here, and so this is going to be, yeah, this, okay. This isn't a bad spot. Essentially what we're going to be doing here is putting the beads in, and then taking each one of the pentacles and placing them in order. Now, these individually don't have a specific elemental correspondence. That's chosen at the moment that you're lying it down. You give it the persona at that moment. So, if it's an air pentacle, it's up to you. If it's a fire pentacle, it's up to you. It's done astrally. And so, since the work is astral, these are not silver. They only appear silver here. If you were able to extend your vision past ultraviolet, you would see that there are actually 5 colors. Okay, and so that said, let's begin. almost there. Okay, now this I'm just going to set aside until it's needed. All right, so I hope that gave a little bit of insight into the process. I mean, that didn't reveal 100%. It didn't reveal any of the working prior to it, which is, the work. But I did reveal the unfolding. All right, and so you at least saw that part of the process. Let me elevate that a bit. I find if you elevate this, it more reliably will sit on the... Actually, you know what? Let me use the pretty beads. I have this bead set that came into my presence. There's 7 of them, so they very nicely symbolize the 7 planets. And so I'm just going to have them doing that while they hold up the small cards. Let's get that centered a little better. That's better. A little easier to read. Okay. As far as this, let's just get this kind of centered in there as well. Going to be right there. Okay, great. Going to have to be moved also. Why don't we just do this? Because here I have the overlay set up, so I think I'll stay in here. And so that it can just be adjusted then. Let's just adjust that. That's which one is that? Is that visible? Yes, it is. Okay, good. So let me just move that over. Sorry, I moved a lot of stuff around on my desk recently, and so I just have to readjust some of these angles that I haven't compensated for yet. Alrighty, almost there. I love that ring. Every time this cup wand leaves that bowl, it sings. Love that. Yeah, is that the edge? Right? Okay. What am I shrinking? Alright, this will do, it's fine. Let's not stress. Okay, so. Alright. So, let me get the beads all in here. What I'm going to be putting in here now is going to be the solar system, right? The 22 majors, the planets, the signs, the 3 supernal triad, the Aleph Mem Shin, the mother letters. And now, normally this would be the way that it's read, and I would either put a piece of plastic, like a transparency over it with a dry erase marker, or I would, you know, in the case here, like for instance, have that overlay, but instead that, you know, that was the whole reason that this was developed. So let's just utilize it. Put Scorpio on the bottom because that's where we are right now. Roughly right about there. And now you can derive it this way, and you can let it swing about, and so that you'll see some of the stuff stays in the middle, and some of it rotates to the outside, or you can just rotate it all to the outside and read it accordingly. Right? There's a number of ways that you can read an astrology chart, and this would be one of those methods. Right? So we have the moon in Sagittarius and so forth. We have Mars in Scorpio, and so you can read it accordingly. And that's just one way to derive a chart, right? We have this particular one is Scorpio, and so we have Scorpio in Pisces, but we also have it falling in a very specific place here.